This is RPMMO Radio.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
A podcast all about role-playing and MMORPGs.
I like what you got. Good job!
With your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, Sid, Jazz, Strafe, and Kishmas.
Everybody off. We need to go on a quick adventure.
Nobody can hear me. Nobody can hear me because I forgot to unmute myself. Thank you, Gangsy Girl, because I'll have to completely redo that intro again. Like a jackass. So, greetings and welcome. This is RPMMO Radio. Again, I don't know why you're here. Most of the people don't even know what they're doing. There we go. Those little X's next to the speakers, apparently that's a mute button. Good pro tip for anybody out there that wants to podcast. Yeah, it's a good, god dang, halflings is what it was. It was those mother halflings. Ooh, sons of bitches. They probably got in here and screwed with my stuff. They do that. They do that because they're burglars. They're burglars. They are burglars. Yeah, they're burglars. Which is a silly word. Nobody uses that.
And
it's
it
not
wasn't
the 1950s anymore.
At all.
No, it was not Ashen's fault.
Everything. It wasn't Ashen's fault at all.
No, it was those damn halflings. So, anyway, I'll have to figure out how the hell to edit that pile of horse shit together in post. But for you live, we appreciate you doing it. This is RPMMO Radio, episode 26, If I Was Eternal. I don't know how much everybody heard before, so if you're listening to us live, we appreciate you tuning in at twitch.tv/RPMMO Radio every weekend, Saturday, 7 Central Time. And you can always listen to the podcasts on iTunes or Google Play or Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, all that good fun stuff. If you want to, you can also donate to our Patreon at patreon.com/RPMMO Radio, just as our first and only That Guy Laza did. It's actually his name, That Guy Laza. Wasn't just being snarky. He's our first, and that will always hold a special place in our heart as a Patreon. And as you might see, he's the only green guy in our Discord chat. So if you want to be green, which who doesn't these days? I mean, I think that's what everyone thinks is cool, being green.
So he went green.
Yeah, he went green. He's totally green now. But, no, seriously, That Guy Laza, you rock. We really appreciate it. As I said, anybody that would like to join us as a Patreon donor, there's different tiers of it. We're actually, Sib kind of brought up the fact that maybe we could do some other stuff like stickers or things like that we can give away at different tiers as well. So, yeah, shout out to the Green Pact. I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that Laz on air. I'm not saying that live. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not saying shout out to the Green Pact with a heart.
You just did.
I remember it differently. And of course, since I finally figured out how to do that, I want to thank all our new followers at our Twitch channel, which is Lazo111 or 111 or 111, however you want to pronounce that. Nemesis Rising, Gangsy Girl, Gangsy Girl, who we're actually holding and we will get to shortly, and of course That Guy Laza again, and Eric Darksinger. So thank you all for following. We are trying to work up to, I forget what it was called, but we have to have 50 followers. So if you listen to the podcast and you want to follow us at Twitch, even if you might never get a chance to do it, we would appreciate it. And if you are listening live and you're not a follower, click the little heart button. It's just a tiny little let's see if I can do that on the camera. The I heart. I hate when people do this because they look like assholes, which is exactly what I look like right now if you have the camera on. I look like an utter asshole, which is fitting for my personality. So we appreciate all that, every little bit. Of course, if you can give us a review on the Apple thingy majigger, that's awesome. I checked, and I don't think there's any new ones. I mean, it's just, which I understand because it took me 10 minutes just to figure out how the fuck to get to the spot where you would check where the comments are on a podcast. It was not very easy to follow. And also, thank you, Jay the Exile, for following just now. Appreciate it, buddy.
Woo!
Shout out to Jay. So, yep. Appreciate everybody tuning in. It's going to be a fun show. We've got a whole bunch of interesting sort of talks ahead of us about what it would be like if you actually were immortal, as so many do like to play in MMOs, or at the very least. I mean, obviously, you can't play somebody that's fully immortal, otherwise they'd be, I don't know. It would be hard. I mean, they'd never stop.
Yeah.
You always get to somebody that's only partway through being immortal, because eventually it has to stop. Like Xanus was technically immortal, but eventually he died. So at that point, was he really? Or was he just long-lived? Those are all things we'll get into. So, before we get to Gangsy Girl, does anybody have anything interesting that has happened to them in the last week in their roleplay that's worthy of speaking about?
I had a pretty good turnout last week for my poetry hour, and ESO. I play an Altmer, and I do high society kind of things, and it was entertaining. I had a full show, and everybody participated. It was a pretty fun event.
It was fun.
I highly encourage you all to come. So you're thoroughly invited to come experience it for yourself.
For all you ESO players out there, I don't know, where were they? Do you have that posted somewhere?
Which comes to a topic that me and Ashton have been tossing around. If anybody would be interested in us actually like being in a game and doing like a public event where somebody
like
might
get together,
want to come RP with us. I know.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know why you
Mr.
would.
Faye, like if you were to
Honestly,
post,
it's just awful.
if you were to post in the Discord general chat, like
Yeah.
you were going to do something like that, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
people-
so that people
Give 'em
can
your-
come.
Give them
Yeah,
your
but-
at name in the game.
And do
'cause
even
it's,
like
it's
I know, like
complicated.
I would be willing to go into, check into like Rift, and
The
'cause I
free
don't
to
know
play
what
ones
games.
would be a lot
Yeah.
easier. Yeah. The ones
to
like
some of
Final
the-
Fantasy 14, not so much just because you have to buy a sub.
Well, just
or
find
World
out
of
if people are
Warcraft.
interested in that. You
Yeah.
know, and I
If
would
there's
load
enough.
up some free to play games and go into those if they're playing in them, and do like an open
Yeah.
RP with people.
Yeah, the way she had told it to me, like, is if
You were listening
No.
weird.
no, I meant like if you're looking to try to role play, but you're real nervous about it, and you want somebody that's not going to be like a total asshole to you, and maybe
And what
help
is an
you
example.
as you go. Like, okay, so you just said you stabbed me in the throat. You have to attempt to stab the person in the throat.
Yeah.
Just little things. It's things that if you're uncomfortable, we can help with. We're happy to help with.
RP
no, I mean-
mentors, as it were.
Yeah, but I thought whenever Straffe said that, I was like, well, you know what? If we were
Yeah,
to
we
post
totally
stuff like
forgot
in-
to. We didn't put it on the show notes last time, and I realized that like the
I
next day I was like,
completely
oh
forgot
shit,
to.
totally forgot.
Well,
It was
the
a big
event is
episode.
typically-
introducing our new people.
Yeah, the event is typically Tuesdays around 8 p.m. Central at my character's estate. I'll post all those details later on our general chat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. You get to read poetry and drink wine and taste cheese. It's fun.
And pretend to be like high cotton, even if you're not.
Yeah.
For an hour, you can be.
And poor Strafe is trying very hard on his character to civilize a group of people. So
Civilizing the uncivilizable.
Yeah, at least when Kennick shows up, at least they actually, even though he is a dirty yellow skin for an Altmer, they do actually get along because he's a pretty fancy guy himself.
It's like your character gets along with my orc, so yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's more out of spite. That's just a spite liking. I mean, really. I don't know.
Trath has no issue with
is that a
Nord.
thing?
She's a pretty interesting, entertaining character.
Yeah,
To be honest.
she is good. Also, thank you, Gangsy Girl, for having pledged on our Patreon just now as well. We appreciate that.
Hey,
So anybody else other than, or you have anything else, Streffe?
I'm sorry.
No,
to
that's-
do you
interrupt
remember
you,
any?
Straffe.
You remember
That's,
any? Do you remember any of the poems? I'm sure that poetry being horrible as it is, were they just all awful?
well, most of the time, folks will go look up classic poems and then credit a unknown
In-game,
Brennan author,
right.
and they'll like link the name so you can kind of figure out who the real poet is.
Yeah,
Or they'll do songs and lyrical verse that are popular songs. I mean, it's just general fun. Sometimes
yeah, I
people come
know.
up
I'm
with their
just
own
giving you
stuff,
crap.
but
If I didn't give
no,
you
it's
crap,
fun.
you'd be worried.
He really doesn't like poetry.
I really actually don't like poetry, which is funny because I do like music, which I know is basically poetry to a beat, but
essentially,
like
yes.
poetry, like I don't know, like Edgar Allan Poe poetry. I like that stuff. What poetry that tells a story, but like like some of the for anybody out there that wants a really weird game, the Doki Doki Literature Club, which is a free game on Steam. Not a fan of that poetry, but I'm told that the story gets super weird, super fast, and it's about 2 hours in, and I'm like an hour and a half in, so I'm waiting. But like the poetry that they read in that, it's garbage. So anybody else have anything?
Let's see. I had several RP events that I went to. Nothing spectacular. But it was a lot of fun to develop. I'm developing Sully's character, which is a new alt of mine. She's a Telvanni, or Telvanni, rather. Not Telvanni. Yeah, she's a Dunmer. She's Telvanni. And the RP has been a lot of fun as I develop her in that character. And I had that to do, and I've been playing around with an idea of another character, so I had some time where I had to develop that. So I've stayed pretty busy.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, and we had the RP between Sully and Strafe character, Terthalis, because they know each other in the past, and it was very uncomfortable and fun.
That
it
was
a lot
entertaining role play.
of fun.
You assaulted the earth, Dunmer lady, talking to someone that has, lived in the trenches, but is trying to live this high cotton life and have this image. And suddenly she rolls in and is like, he shatters this whole image within like 5 seconds.
Yep.
And that was entertaining.
She remembers him being such a young, well, not young, but new at mercenary, and she was his commander. So it was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
You got anything, Sib?
I've been just doing a lot of random role play.
Yeah.
I've got a new character. I'm trying to work with the Servants of the Tribunal.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And so that's about it. Just trying to get her out there known.
Yeah. Well, and mine actually had to do with our next caller, which is Gangsy Girl, which was something they did in it was
in
Windhelm. So
East March. Yeah.
Without further ado, hey, how's it going, Gangsy?
Hey, Gangsy.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
So first off, I had a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
It was also so popular it was hella chat scroll.
That's usually what it is at these events.
Yeah. Man, that was rough, but man, it was a lot of fun.
I wouldn't know. I was so busy trying to organize everything. I think I role play with maybe 3 people.
Yeah. You were kind of every time you just like appeared, and then you were having. Why is it always that when you organize something as big as you had doing that, the game decides that that's when it's gonna not let you play?
It used not to be like that. We used to have these big events and everything was fine. It was when they merged all the servers, AD, DC, EP. So there were more people on the server that these crashes started to happen.
Yeah, and it always seems like there's a handful of them, but it never fails that it's always the one running the event that always seems to crash more often than anybody else. Have you noticed that? It's just like, you know what?
I've noticed crashes.
You. So, she wanted to talk about some of the stuff that she's done and some of the old things that have happened. So, what you got?
Well, currently, my main is Vitalis Anthyron, who runs the Emerald Exchange Trading Company. Currently, he is a Halalu Lord who owns a trading company in Skyrim. It was done over a series of RPs over the years, where we actually went to Skyrim to avoid, getting too involved in the politics of House Myr life.
Mm-hmm.
So we just sort of embraced that, and we actually, embraced Skyrim as our main hub of RP. In fact, we were actually part of the Children of Skyrim for a while. And but we didn't, since we're a trading company, it's actually a very good thing because it doesn't limit us. We can go to anyone because everybody needs things. So we can go to the House Myr, we can go to the Argonians in the Shadowfen, we even had an RP in the Altmeri Dominion.
Yeah, I was gonna say because even though there's kind of a war, there's still the day-to-day life. The war really only has to do with like the rich and the powerful, but like the day-to-day people still need food and supplies and crap. And there's, as far as I know, even though there's the three of them, there's not like trade blockades and stuff like that anywhere in any of the lore that I remember. So yeah, he kind of leaves you open for all kinds of stuff that lets you cross faction and do things without totally being like, you can't do that.
Every war's got war profiteers, right?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a cool idea. I love it.
Yeah, and you had told me too, because there anybody that actually watches the show other than just listening to it, there's we do our background wallpaper, and some of them will be a little bit new, and those are actually her pictures from the old Ashlanders Wars, which I've heard of. Unfortunately, Kishmis had to work tonight, so he was the other one that actually took part in that, so he's not here tonight to say the other side of that. But we knew that would happen every now and then when he works alternating days on the weekends every now and then, and we never know what it is until the middle of the week. But you're one of the ones on the Ashlander side of the Ashlander War back. How long ago was that?
Oh, this was almost 3 years ago. It was actually, it's funny, this was right around the time I actually joined the role-playing community. My friend Serena and I, we're best friends, and when we found the community, we decided to make Dunmer. And we originally started as our Halalu, but back then there were only like 5 of us, and we really didn't have much to do. So she decided first to make an Ashlander and join the Ashlanders for the war. I decided to join afterwards, and since we're such good friends, we decided to make twins, which are the Zulu Twins. And it was really a lot of fun because my main Vitalis, he's such a nice guy. He's like a goody-goody. And with Hazaron, I got to be just this maniacal, evil Ashlander who is xenophobic to the 10th degree.
Yeah, how many? Because I like looking through the pictures. I knew a lot of people had taken part in that, but looking through the pictures that you sent me, that's an ungodly number of people taking part in that. How many do you think probably all together from start to finish probably had some part in that? It's got to have been a couple hundred, or like 100 or 2
from both sides.
Yeah.
Oh, at least 100.
Yeah.
At least 100. We had it was not just the House Mirror. It was not just the Ashlanders. We had Imperials coming. We had Human Floyd's Argonians. They were siding with the Ashlanders. We had some Khajiits. We even had a few of Arthur Sarthos, the Dreslord. We actually had a siege where we took Kraganmore, Kraganmore, and we took all of his Khajiit slaves, and they worked for us as the Ashlanders.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and because I know we've back, like I was telling you when we were talking, that there was back in EQ2, back in its golden era, so to speak. We had a big faction war between the only 2 cities at the time, which were Freeport and Kinos, and it was a lot of fun. And I know Jazz is muted right now, but she might still be there.
Yes, I'm here.
It sounds like you had some of the same problems eventually that we ended up having with that, where whenever you have a giant group of people, eventually somebody's feelings get hurt, or somebody tries to take more control than maybe they should. So that happened a little bit here and there too.
That definitely. There were a couple of situations. As playing a part of the Ashlander group, it was actually a lot of fun because we actually got to roleplay the Ashlanders, and we had RPs with ourselves where we were just like, it was actually hilarious. Roleplaying a bunch of Ashlanders just trashing this really powerful, fearful Dres Lord, and just like trashing his place.
Yeah.
And we'd have a lot of role plays there, but it was just not just our mains. We made mains for this. Like there was Ivaba, there was Han Lu, who's played by a friend of mine, Dell, and No Frets, who played the Ashkan, he was just amazing. But besides our mains, they would have a bunch of small scuffles, and there were a few big events where it was scheduled for us to win. But there were a lot of RPs where we were just supposed to be there as nothing more than red shirts. We would go there, and we were just there for the house murder kill. And, that's given. It's a war. You expect that. Feelings weren't really bitter for me until the time when they were driving us out of the city of Ebonheart. we were told something was going to happen. Like we were going to have a few moments where our wise woman Evaba would do a couple spells. What ended up happening was we ended up getting zerged. Like everyone just charged us. We had no time to react, so we basically just had to run across the lake, and that was the RP. That was the one time I actually was somewhat offended because it didn't feel like an RP. It felt like we literally just got zerged.
Right, you just got pushed off without a chance to. Yeah, I understand that. I know Jazz. Remember when? What was that? It was around. I think it was in Kinos that there was one place that it was a central part to the story, and like the characters literally formed a human wall shoulder to shoulder, and then one person from the other side was like I went invisible and snuck through. It's like you.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
and it kind of it spoiled that entire event just because it just took in that case it wasn't even a Zerg, it was just one person, and then other people were like, yeah, he did it, he wins, it just ruined the whole rest of it. Kind of spoiled it, definitely spoiled that event, and kind of everything went on a kind of a downward spiral, and it wrapped up after that fairly shortly, just because people don't want to, everybody's got to be the have their special little moment in the sun, even though when it's that many people, sometimes you gotta just let it take, happen.
And it always takes one, and most of the time they find cheerleaders and it just gets out of hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a really, despite the fact that it actually was a very epic roleplay, especially the finale that took place in Ash Mountain. There were,
I was going to ask you how it ended.
It was actually really incredible. It took place over 3 days. First day had us being chased out of Kraganmore, where we were driven into the Ash Mountains, and it was basically the main cast. There was Human Floyd. I think his name was Methaloon, I think his character's name was. I can't remember. There was Nofret, who was the Ashkan, Han Lu, who was my friend Niv. There was Del, who's played with my friend Lemon Sugar. And then there was me and Serena, who were the Zulu Twins, and a thief and a few others. And we actually role played us, gathering and making a plan and set everything up. On the second night was part one of the final battle, where the first half was done just with us redshirting, because that's the working their way up the Ash Mountain, which was really cool, because if you ever go through that quest of Ash Mountain, you actually go up this pathway of Daedric Ruins, up the stairwell, and there's just this huge expanse place to have an epic battle. In fact, I remember whispering Jay. Jay was at the front lines, and I just zapped him with my Ashlander's lightning bolts because I could. Sorry, Jay.
Very nice.
Sunshine. But yeah, we had an epic fight, and it was Ramus leading he gathered all the Housemer and all the allies following him, and it was a big crowd. In fact, somewhere I gave you a screenshot I took from when Ramus was at the front, and alongside him was the entire group of the heroes behind him.
Yeah.
So if you can put that up, that's one of the screenshots I sent you. And it was a huge standoff, which ended with Han Lu, who was the false Neverine. That's what caused the whole war. They believed that the Neverine was coming back.
Yeah.
And so Han Lu, in the Last Desperate, used all of his power to create a giant barrier between us and the Housemer. And that was the end of part one. Part two was the Telvanni in the group starting to break down the barrier, which led to the final battle, where all of our characters as our mains got to fight. And I lived with Serena, and we had been playing our Ashlanders for months, and we loved playing our Zulu Twins. We loved, fighting with each other, arguing, causing trouble. I think we actually fought with the other Ashlanders more than the Housemer. It was hilarious. I think at one point, my Serena actually punched Han Lu. But we decided that, these guys are too much fun. We're not killing them off. And we made sure to let people know that the Zulu Twins were going to be surviving at the end of this, so we're not accepting any PKs. But so the final battle happened, and it was, despite how many people there were compared to Ashlanders, it was actually very well done. We never felt overwhelmed. At least I didn't. They were very good about whispering, being patient, I was never getting 3 whispers at once. It was people were very good about spreading out and making sure that not one player got overwhelmed.
Yeah. So you didn't all get ganged up on with 14 different people all trying to hit one guy.
No, it was very well organized. And it was almost like a movie in a way. Some scenes were like, set off to the side where people would stand off and the main cast would do their little cut scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the veteran and Lord Sarthos approaching Han Lu and Sarthos grabbing him by the neck and hurling him over the cliffside.
I was about to say that's impressive on the level of organization that I've never seen in any games I've played. Because that's a lot of guilds having to come together to stick by roles, to have a good time, and not let somebody spoil the whole punch bowl. And that's thoroughly cool that you guys got to do that.
Yeah.
Well, it helped that we were all in the same team speak together.
Oh, there you go.
A lot of us were muted. But we communicated through, typing. But there was constant communication through TeamSpeak. There was one group in game made entirely of the Housemer, another group made up entirely of the Ashlanders. So the Ashlanders knew what was going on, and the Housemer knew what was going on. If something came up, we could just speak up in TeamSpeak and say, "Hey, this is happening," or "X is getting overwhelmed. Can you guys back off?" But so it went very, very smoothly. Even down to the part where there was a final battle between Zerubbabel, the Ashkan, who was possessed by Boethia, facing Ramus Samaris, who was leading the Redarin. And it was actually a very epic role-played battle between these two. I remember sitting off to the side with Serena, and it was like, this is like a movie. They were just like constantly clashing, like one-liners left and right. Like, it was just really, really cool. All the way to the very end when, and I thought it was really cool. This was really epic that even though, the Ashkan got killed, Zeru still managed to kill off Ramus. He stabbed him right in the throat right before he got decapitated. And I'm like, yes! Take him down with you. So that was cool. And, even after the thing was over, it didn't just end there. I thought this was really neat. There was, of course, a funeral for Ramus and everything. But I was really happy about this. I set up a funeral for the Ashlanders as well, for those who fell. And I was really touched by how many people showed up for it besides just the Ashlanders. There had the Khajiit, we had some Argonians, we had a couple, we invited the Imperials, but they didn't show up, but everyone got to come up and speak their part about who they lost or how they felt or how hopeful they were for the future. And I thought that was a really good way to end this, seeing it from the Ashlanders' perspective that, yeah, we were fighting each other, but, there's two sides to every story. Yes, you're a Housemer, Ashlanders were evil, but if you think about it, see from the Ashlanders' perspective, we thought something great was coming, and we all began to be hunted one by one. So, that's actually one of the reasons why this is such a controversy, because as the plot continued, people became more and more, sympathetic to the Ashlanders. I won't even mention the Mabragash incident, because that was one of the most controversial role plays I ever took part in.
I don't know what that is. I wouldn't know what it is otherwise.
It's one of the reasons why Sarthos, when he lists his titles, calls himself I think it was Slayer of the Veil or something like that. He actually, and I think this is cool. Sarthos actually sees that as a token of shame. He's ashamed that happened, which is why he carries that burden with him.
Okay, yeah, I can.
That's kind of a cool nod.
Yeah. Nod and a wink.
But another thing that's great was the Ashlanders didn't just die out. Iluba, the wise woman of the tribe, survived it. The Zulu Twins survived it. Afif stayed there. And it started out with all the remaining Ashlanders gathering together in one group, which became Tangri Valathi. And so the Ashlanders formed this little hub group where we role-played. And that still exists to this day. In fact, I still play my evil Ashlander Hazaran. He's not as aggressive as he once was, but he still will get into a fight every now and then if someone's up for a little, confrontation.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. And it's definitely left a mark on the roleplay community, because even all these years later, it still gets brought up in conversations and offhandedly in just different roleplay conversations here and there from the characters that were there, or that at least saw it off the sidelines or whatever it might have been. So it's definitely cool when things are able to come together like that. It's also fairly rare, just because of, like as you were saying, the massive scale of communication and setup, and it doesn't ever just come about from one person. It's got to be several people working together, and then several people under them, all working and then playing along. And
I don't think we've ever had an event as that lasted as long or is at such a large scale as the Ashlander War since then. We've had big, community storylines, but nothing to that extent.
Nothing that big, yeah. And I've not everything I've seen over the last year. I've been there. There's been some good stories and things like that, but nothing on a scale of that magnitude. But no, it's really cool to get to hear that stuff from firsthand, and I'm glad you're able to give that to us and let us know, and do appreciate you sharing the pictures. I was able to finally figure out how to just put one single image up there. I think that's the picture.
That looks cool.
But so you got anything else or any shout outs you wanted to give before we let you go, Kingsy?
Well, I just want people to know that, for the longest time, people have been saying, Morrowind is, drama, and there's and actually the Ashlander War is one of the reasons why people say there was drama, because, like I said, there was things going on behind the scenes. People
as
were
there always are, yeah.
Yes, and it was getting to the point where people were actually starting to avoid Morrowind, but drama happens everywhere. But I'd say that especially now more than ever, the community has shown a level of maturity that I've never experienced before. People are communicating. Guilds are actually getting together. All the guild leaders are getting together in hubs to discuss ideas or share events so that they can include others in these more
building each other up instead of tearing each other down.
Yeah.
We all want to work together to make because you can't just role play in your house with your friends all day. You want to
right,
play with other people.
Yeah, because there's a time and a place for that, but you don't, as Jazz knows, that's why she goes to Riften, is to meet new people. That's the sole purpose of doing that. Because you can always role play with the people you already know. They're not going anywhere, but you never know who you might be. Who you might be missing out on by not, venturing outside your own front door and outside your, your comfort zone every now and again.
Especially since housing came out. That also caused a huge, dip in the role playing community on the outside. Because we felt more. It was like our safe zone. No trolls couldn't get to us. We couldn't be bothered. We could change things so it was more immersive. But that's actually why a lot of the communities are trying to, create more events like the one I had in Windhelm. It was actually an idea brought up by Kinrava in Sabaya. They wanted to, at least once a month, have someone have a large social gathering of some kind in a public area so that, there'd be more, outdoor role play so people can meet and make new contacts.
Bump into it and things like that.
Like you had the other night.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. That is such a huge idea. I mean, the first couple poetry hours I did Mar, or I did in a different bar, and we had people show up that thought we were NPCs, and then when they realized we were players, they stuck around and hung out. It was pretty cool.
I know the thing you had. What was it, last night?
Yeah, last night.
It was amazing to see that many people gathered in one location, and I mean, on my character, I made new friends, met new people, so it was really nice, and it's nice to see. People putting those things together.
Yeah, like I said, the first one was put together by Kinrava, Kiara, who runs a Telvanni guild. Then the next one was run by my friend Sadri. He had an October event. Then
I know Sadri. My character hates him.
Well, he's a little insane. He's actually my house's house jester.
He blamed my character for something that he did and held her accountable, and she got pissed off. I think he's a great guy. Just in character, I think they both despise one another, which is always fun too.
That's the important thing about keeping IC and OC things separate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's definitely a cool guy, but in character, she can't stand him just because of that.
My character met Sadri last night, and they got along great.
Yeah.
Of course, she met him through Taliana.
Yeah,
they were there together. So.
Yeah, but
Sadri actually is House and Byron's jester.
Yeah. So you got any shout outs you want to give before we let you go, Gagsy?
I'd like to encourage people that there are, it's not just these big events that happen once a month. There are a lot of weekly events that happen. Tuesday nights at the Gateway Inn in Vardenfell, there are the hookah nights run by my friend Breck. He has those, and those happen at 9:00 at night.
Mhm.
On Thursdays, we have the Temple Sermons run by Sabaya or my friend Lemon, and they're usually in Warnhold or in Evanhart. And on Fridays at 9 p.m. in the Ebony Flask, House Magier has their Flask Nights. And these are events where they happen every single week. We're putting together. But I think the most popular one that's been running for years successfully is in the Delin, the St. Delin portion in Vivek City, which is the Telvanni Tea House run by Kati of Telvanni Contracts.
Yep.
And these are events that happen every single week. They're always out in the open. They're always public, and it's a great way to meet people. And it's people are sometimes not aware that these are happening like on a weekly basis. It's not just like you have to wait for a big event to happen.
Yeah, and I've known Kitty as apparently I was one of the first people she role played with when she got an ESO. I've known her since she started. Funny enough, she's a fantastic person. We love her to death.
We've actually had her on the show. And
she called in once.
She's
just
awesome.
adorable. She was so hard on herself, but T, if you're listening, you're adorable. It's okay.
Yeah, everybody loves T. She's like the most modest among us all. It's basically if you hate T, you're automatically a bad person.
Yeah, you're a bad.
Oh yeah.
You're just you're a soulless halfling lover. That's pretty much all it goes. So,
always with the halflings, you sir.
Always with the bloody halflings. But no, I appreciate you calling in, Gangsy. It's really good to hear from you, and I hope you have a good night. And appreciate you.
And if
talking
you
on the show.
guys plan any events, feel free to drop them in our Discord.
Yeah.
And
Okay, you can do that, but you can also.
Yep.
We also have a couple of hubs. There's Evanhart Roleplay on Discord, and there is the Heart of Morrowind Discord, where we actually will let people know it's a role-playing hub, so people can come into contact, and we have an event section that lists upcoming events.
Yep. For anybody playing ESO, those are definitely in. Of course, they're the ESO RP website, with the forums and things like that, and the calendar on there is always really good. But the Discords, I'm finding the more and more that Discord is going to just be. It's going to be a constant hub of almost every roleplay game from here on out, just because it is so easy to use, and you can always keep the most up to date. And I don't know. I know Jazz she's always struggled with getting people to check forums, but you don't have a whole lot of problem getting people to be on Discord, do you? She's probably beating her kids.
As long as I'm still playing the game, I'll still be posting my roleplay screenshots.
But yeah, well.
That's cool.
Well, appreciate you calling in, Gagsy, and I hope you have a good night.
All right, good night. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gangsy.
It's great to meet you. Have a good one.
All right. Well, that was really cool to get to have some info or inside info on old roleplay that happened. I think before all of us were back in ESO. If there's anybody out there in other games that you've got stuff that you want to call in, like she did, rpmmoradio.com/Discord. Join our Discord channel. Go to the caller waiting room, and we'll hear you out at any time. So we're going to go ahead and hit up our main topic, which will be on Immortality. But first of that, we have to go to a word from our sponsor. So I just read this thingy here then, yeah? Yeah, just read it like it says, Ted. Just get it through once and we'll edit and post just whenever you're ready. Okay there. Yeah. Hello there. I'm Ted the Immortal from Wisconsin. Hi there. So people are always asking me all the time. They say to me, they says, Ted, and I say, that's my name. Don't wear it out. That's just how I am. I'm a hoot. And they say, Ted, what's it like being immortal? And it's not so bad. I got to see all sorts of neat stuff. Like I saw the moon landing on TV. I remember when they made Budweiser. That was a really good year for everybody. That was such a good one. Oh, one time I saw Frank Sinatra, if you've heard of him. I didn't see him sing. I just saw him down the street. He was getting food. But it looked like a really nice fella from far away, don't you know there? And if you like what you hear and what I'm telling you, and you want to know more, That's why I got my blog. I blog, it's called tedtheimmortal.com. It's on the interwebs. That's sometimes you gotta put the www dot in front of it, so it'd be www.thetedimmortal.com. And I talk about all kinds of things about being immortal. Like what I do for a living, being immortal. I'm an assistant manager at my local CVS. They got all kinds of good benefits there, and I get 10% off things in the store, which really, when you need to make your nickels and dimes stretch, is useful. And I've got some amazing collections, too. I collect stamps. I've been doing that for, 5 years or so now. I got like 96 of them, almost up to 100. 2 of them are even Canadian, can you believe it? They got some funny stamps up there in the Canadias. And people are always coming to me for relationship advice, because I've been around for so long. That's easy, though, because I found out over all my years that there's really only 11 words you need to make any woman fall madly in love with you. And it's just a simple phrase that's, hey, Ted, sorry to butt in here. We're going to need you to stick to the script, so if you could just take it from the top. Oh, golly. Okay, thanks. Oh, well, seems like a nice guy. Yeah.
Nice was an understatement.
Yeah.
Annoying.
Oh my gosh.
Was
How
more
would
to
you
the
like
point.
to
But hey,
immortal?
Well,
nice guy.
I mean, we can't all be Rangots, broody and angsty. I'm just gonna guess. I'm thinking.
I don't even like Ringots, and
I'm thinking Ted doesn't shop at Hot Topic like Rangots did.
No, he probably doesn't. Let's be honest.
That's definitely not a Hot Topic. That's that guy right there. He's gonna cry the day JCPenney goes out of business. That's gonna be a rough day for him. So, it happens a lot in roleplay. People that like play long-lived or immortal characters. Not all of them, sometimes it's vampires and things like that. Sometimes it's just, I don't know, whatever they can come up with. I know I've done it. Jazz, you've had some long-lived characters. Rengots, your guy was pretty old. Sib.
Not by choice, but yes.
And then there's Sib.
That was my fault.
I don't have long-lived characters that I can think of.
No, you don't. You like to play the normies.
I like to play the vanillas.
You're vanilla.
And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think it's a better.
Yeah, it's
character.
Well, and that's the thing. Why I kind of was thinking of this. I was driving there through my job, and I was like, if you were really actually immortal, what would you seriously do differently in your life? I mean, would you stick with that shitty job that you have, or the choices that you make when you have a perspective of time's not limited? What would you really do? Because and the longer you live, how would your maturity change in your attitude towards life and death and things like that? I mean, so some of it, like the vampire movies and stuff, they're all so cold and heartless, but some of them are you're 25 years old. You probably shouldn't be quite that cold and heartless just yet. The older ones, I can kind of get it. But, that's not, going into the vampires that have no souls or something, whatever, supernatural like that. So I don't know what you guys think. If you actually had immortality, what would you kind of think to do differently? And the reason I'm asking this is we're going to tie it into maybe ways people haven't thought of when they role play long-lived characters.
I think that would be an incredibly tragic existence, because you could never get really too close to somebody because they wouldn't be there for long. I mean, if you're immortal, 80 years may seem like a long time to someone that's normal, but someone who's immortal is going to see them and they're going to be gone like a candle in a wind tunnel.
Yeah,
so
if you've been around since the birth of Christ, if you're 2,000 years old, what's an 80-year-old to you that was just born, that lived through the 50s? Oh, wow, I lived through the Crusades,
Right. And, you would probably, that would be horrible. I mean, you would have to have a whole totally different mindset of how you approach life. I mean, it might be neat if you did. I mean, you could go many roads with it. one road could be you could sneak around and just do good for folks and not say anything and just be kind of the guy in the background that never actually gets the credit.
Yeah.
But you get the credit yourself because you see it happen. You don't need the accolades because you're going to live forever. Or you could go the exact opposite and do something completely horrible and always start angsty things.
God, you don't understand me. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to be in the corner brooding now.
Oh man.
But
Totally.
what do you, hey, Jazz, Sib, any preliminary thoughts before we dig into it?
I think it would be boring. I really
Totally.
do. I mean, we read those Mark Tufo books about Talbot,
Yeah,
and what is it? The Lycan.
like in Fallout, which is
Fallout, yeah.
just 200 years later.
I kind of agree with him. I think I would be bored. I would not want to go on. I would just be like, you've watched everybody else.
Yeah, his wife and his kids
pass
are all
on
dead.
in your life, and I'd be like, I'm done. I don't think I would make a very good immortal. Jess?
I would not be bored if I didn't have to worry about time and I wouldn't have to worry about getting older. I would definitely learn all the things and do all the things. I think I would be less worried about saving for the future if I knew I'm going to live forever. So have fun, save money, work at that job, do that thing, be the artist, have your life. And especially if you've been living at a time when it was easier. Imagine if somebody who's been around that long, they're able to guess trends, invest their money.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
If
you
there's
used to
a
have to
reason why
shit in a hole, then,
and now you are where you are, and you've been around for all this time. You've been saving money all this time. You've been investing money all this time. So, we think about that how people that are in their 80s, part of the reason that they do better when they're in their 70s and 80s is because their house is paid off. They're, and so then they sell their house for profit and they, do this, they do that. Well, take that times 1,000.
Right. Like my grandparents, when they bought their house in California in the 50s for 50,000. And, when they both passed away, it's worth upwards of $450,000,
And that's a lot of money. And then you think about that over and over and over. That's why, I think I would speak every language that I could learn. I would be the artist. I would travel. I would be this wandering ghost. I think eventually it would get to you, but initially at least, I would learn all the things. If I suddenly became an immortal, that's what I would be like. It'd be like, wait. You mean I really am not going to die?
Right.
Okay, now everything's going to change because now I'm not 50 anymore.
Yeah.
Let me play devil's advocate to your idea, Jazz. There would be a horrible dark side to this part because you could never tell anybody you are mortal. Eventually, people would figure it out. You'd always have to have fake bank accounts because if people in power found out that you were immortal, they would do anything and everything to find out why you're immortal. Try to take it.
You can't tell anybody. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
You literally
but
have to live
There's been some really good books about this.
Well, you would literally have to live like Ben Kenobi on Tatooine, pretending to not be who he is.
Well, not really.
Mm-hmm.
What they do is they just get very, very good at moving on every 20, 30 years. So, I have my kids. They live their lives. And then at some point, I would have to, if they weren't immortal, I would have to, quote unquote, die somehow. And then just stay around and watch them from a distance. It would be excruciating.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the hard part.
That's the part you have to kind of imagine, what that would do to your mental state to watch your kids and then your grandkids and then their kids.
You're going to watch your whole culture die away. Think about Rome. And if somebody lived through Rome and is now here, how are they going to view all this stuff? Because their culture that they grew up in, that they knew is dead. This is something new. It's going to die. So there's a sense of distance.
Yeah, and how many, and how many around you pick Rome too, but not just Rome, but like, you know, the Germanic hordes, all the Arabic, everything in the Arabic world. I mean,
the Assyrians, the Sumerians, and all those guys are long gone.
I mean, the
Imagine
lands are
being
the
born
same,
in
but
Babylonia
everything's
and living since then. I mean, all the loss that you would have to go through. I think you'd have to eventually get to the point where you either become almost like a child in the sense that you stop thinking too hard, or you go crazy.
Yeah, would you? Yeah, could you grow? Could you? You know, maybe that's why so many, like, when they show them, they just go numb and dead inside because they just just the burden of having seen all that stuff. You know, it has to start weighing down on you. But yeah, I've wondered. You know, that's one thing I always wonder too when I watch. You know, you watch the movies with, you know, I don't know, whatever it's typical. I'm going to use vampires because in movies and stuff, it's typically always vampires that have the, you know, eternal lives. There's not a lot of things like, hey, I'm eternal for no reason, you know, at least in media. So I go with that. But, you know, after a while too, you have to, you know, it used to be far easier, you know, to fake your identity. But as things progress, you have to wonder if there's a point where you would be almost, it would be impossible to do to an extent, you know, if they
but if you've lived all that time, you probably have 1,000 different identities.
Yeah, it could be. That's what I'm saying.
You
it just depends if they, you know, if they get to the mark of the beast kind of, you know, like everybody from birth is injected with a like a locator identity chip or something to finally cut back on identity fraud, or I don't know. I'm making stuff up here.
You'd have to hide from that, right?
Right, you'd have to figure out a way and hope that maybe that there's like an underground identity chip thing that you could make compare it to yourself, and you know, it's one of those things. I always wonder that when I'm watching that, like if the technology kept going, I mean, how hard would this be to, you know? But then again, too, on the opposite end of that, or actually still going in that vein, if you are able to, you know, and I'll go with 2,000 years since, you know, the time of the Romans and in Christ and all that, and then, you know, you progress through you go to the pinnacle of that society and it crashes. Then you hit the Dark Ages. Then there's the, you know, the Renaissance, or actually I think I got those two backwards, but you know what I mean. You learn in all that, so you might be able to become rich and powerful enough that while you're able to, you know, you're one of those people that have so many holdings and stuff like that nobody even knows the tail end of what you might be, you know, who knows, you end up like a George Soros or what's his face over, not the guy behind in Russia, you know, these billionaires that they just, you know, they're just old and they control everything, you know. Maybe you're the new Illuminati. Just saying.
I think it'd be horribly tragic to watch your kids die, your family die.
Yeah, it would be rough.
And not try to intercede. I mean, that would be brutal. And then do you have the psyche? Do I do this again? Why bother? I'm gonna watch them die. Yeah, that would be horrible to experience.
Okay, so
I don't think you'd have kids after you found out. I don't think after you find out.
I'm pretty sure, you would definitely invest in Trojan brand condoms after
that. Then you would have a lonely existence because you wouldn't want to attach yourself to anybody, because then eventually even
lovers, and you know, if you fell in love with somebody.
I mean, really, you would think you would even get tired of sex. At some point, you're like, I've done it all.
Yeah, it's all right.
No, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't happen to me. But
I mean,
at one point, Jazz would be like, "Have we tried the ear canal?"
Yikes!
Right?
Yikes.
Okay, so here's one for you, Straffe, too. Going back, I'm gonna use the Talbot books that we are talking about by Mark Tufo, because he was their universe, it works differently. He was bitten by a vampire, but he wasn't fully turned. So he was like, they called him a half vamp, but he still he got some of the powers. He got a lot of the longevity. But
so he's like stuck between two worlds,
right? And that was his hell. But in this one, when you got bit, the circumstances as to why he allowed it to happen is his family was in danger. It's a zombie. The book's called Zombie Fallout, but it has actual vampires and werewolves in it too. And you'd have to get into Mark Tufo's crazy ass head, which is totally worth it. But they were it was to be turned, or his family trapped on a roof surrounded by zombies would be killed. And one of the other guys was a zombie, and it wasn't enough for him to be able to hold them all off on his own.
Right.
And he made the sacrifice because when you got bit, it took your immortal soul. And he knew he was giving up eternity with his family to save them from, you know, what was coming. And of course, you know, in that series, it that one's still going on, and then it jumped ahead like an alternate timeline if they passed off naturally. But they had mentioned in the 200 years ago later that he watched his family die from afar, and the reason he did it from afar was because the temptation to turn them and do what had been done to him was so great but he couldn't, it damned their immortal soul kind of thing. So, you know, which is an interesting take if you go the vampire route. Right. You know, how hard, I mean, I know you're a church going guy and stuff like that too, but you know, that would have to be a struggle for the immortal soul, something you can't see, for the physical form right in front of you. I mean, that's a tough call to make for, if you really, really, you know, outside of a literary sense, if you really had that in front of you, and, you know, it was a combination of watching your children die or just a simple nip on the neck and they can be with you forever.
Well, that's the great thing about of temptation and lure, right? Do this thing. Condemn your soul, or watch your family die, or watch your family die and stay true to yourself. But you're all going to die anyway.
But they're going to die. They're going to get to go to heaven. But because
you
sacrificed yourself already 100 years ago, you're never going to get to see them again. So when if you
and
actually
then you have
die,
immortality. If you think about it and hate on yourself, I mean that's torture in itself. I don't think it's a no-win situation anywhere you go. But that's just me.
Yeah, and it would be rough, you know. That's just, and that's one of the, like they said, the reason I wanted to come over this is because a lot of times when we see it in roleplay, the immortal character, I don't know why it is, but sometimes they're played like they're. I was listening to, which is out now if you want to listen to Elder Scrolls Spotlight at rphq.org with Mikey Jazz's, went up on Monday, and which means Sibs will be up next Monday. Quick shout out to them. But I was listening to that today. I finally had time to sit down and listen to it because our workday was bullshit. So
shout out the name of the podcast again.
Elder Scrolls Spotlight.
Okay.
Yeah, on rphq.org.
I want to make sure everybody got that.
Yeah. But you know, Jazz is, oh shit, I just lost my train of thought doing that.
You were talking about Jazz's.
Yeah. Jazz is something or other. Yeah, anyway, it'll come back to me. Good point,
Jazz
Mike. Good point. Just thinking about your something or other, Jazz. Don't worry about it.
That's such a loaded topic.
What? I was talking about her mind. She's got an amazing mind. What were you going on about this? I don't know. Man, you just made it dirty. That's just.
I just know Jazz.
Ashamed. I'm ashamed of you, really, Straffe. I'm just.
Well, I mean, that's fine. You can be ashamed.
Your mom and I were talking the other night, and we're just, you know, we had hoped for one thing for you, and it's just.
You met the mother trolls? Oh, totally.
It's just not trolling out the way we had hoped.
Yeah, that's sometimes these things happen.
Oh no, but as I was saying, that's what I was. Jazz had said in the thing that when she meets characters sometimes that have like long lives or certain characters that they play like they have the mentality of a 5-year-old. Right. You know, and
in a way.
Well, I understand that, but only if it's actually.
But the thing is they're trying to play the broody badass, but then they're like, "I'm immortal. I'm 2,000 years old. What's a vagina?"
Oh, that kind,
you know,
of
that kind of like, come on.
That innocence, no, you
yeah,
can't. That's a pet peeve.
Right.
Of mine,
see,
yes,
and that's what I was getting at. You can't. Yeah. You're not. You have to. You can't play. You can play like you're a little crazy and you're a little batshit because you know you're coming unglued mentally,
Yeah.
You can't play ignorant on things that any.
I'm a
that any
2,000-year-old virgin.
Right.
Sure you are.
Yeah,
Let's see those hairy palms, buddy. Shame you.
that's the problem. Lots of people want to be the special vampire, werewolf, whatever, but very few do it well. And most of the time, you don't find them, and they're very rare. And even when they do it well, it's like, okay, you're a vampire. Who cares? It's
Right.
overdone. You want to yawn, or at least I do. But I'm a hater when it comes to that stuff.
Right. But and that's the thing is it's got to be done well, and I think a lot of the reason is because people don't always think it through, like the real consequences. If you really were, because even elves that live for what are you laughing at, woman?
I was laughing at the comment as a girl made Kingsy made in the Twitch.
Yeah, one arm just happy.
Really beefy.
Yeah.
Well done.
I only work out with right hand, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh,
That was
nightmares the rest of the night.
Yeah, I don't think too hard on that one.
Yeah, I think, like, I had several characters, and I should say that I didn't choose to play an Immortal ever. This was rolls
You
the
and your
dice.
rolling, yeah.
I know. So I rolled these characters to
He
be
says
long-lived.
accusatorily.
Yeah. And I'll like Toyana, as you know, was batshit crazy.
Mhm.
And due to this, that she's just stupidly old. And Vakarina was also incredibly unstable. And I think that, but at the same time, she didn't go off and say, "What's a penis? I don't know what that is. Oh, don't kiss me, blush."
Yeah.
Please. Stop
Or,
it. Even if you've never had sex in 2,000 years, which, okay, maybe you are like the world's best virgin. Whatever.
Yeah.
There is no
2,000-year-old virgin.
Yeah.
Unless you are
that's not a movie I
stark-raving
want to
crazy
see.
or grew up
2,000-year-old
in a
virgin.
cave for 2,000 years. Can you possibly be that naive? It's not
Right.
possible in 2,000 years. It's simply not
No.
possible. And
No.
Yeah.
that's what I have to just stuff my hand in my mouth and walk away
Just
when
like,
I'm RPing with people like that.
Biting
because
that knuckle like,
it's just like,
don't
just
type
walk
it.
away,
Don't type
just
it.
walk away. Don't say anything. Nod and smile. And it's just, and people who know me, who talk on voice with me while I'm role playing, have heard me do this because I'm just like face palming and not commenting because I really want to. There's nothing I can do about it. But at the same time, you just want to reach out to them and tell and go, "Really? Come on."
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
You got to, and that's what. Yeah, you got to, you got to think it through a little bit. You're not going to be, an idiot. If you're going to live that long, for one, as we were saying, you have to have survived that long too, because there are different kinds of immortality. There's just the part where like you won't get sick, you won't die, you won't age, but maybe you can take a bullet to the brain. Like
Luke Cage style.
don't walk under ladders in front of a black cat with an umbrella inside. That kind of thing. Eric Darksinger actually has a good thing in the chat. He says you're 200 years old and you lose your temper over something that someone who will be dead in the blink of an eye said.
Yeah, see, that's
Mm.
Like
the problem.
someone says your mom, and you're like, "Oh, do you know who I am?" And you call forth lightning.
oh God, Gangsy Girl, don't get me started, please.
What I used to do in this situation.
Oh God, I'm not
ahead,
even
read
going to
it.
go there. No.
Read it.
Oh,
Read it, Jen.
God.
Wait, it's part of it's a
Guys, read it.
podcast and a show. You have to read it, otherwise that's the point of being here.
And those snowflakes rage that you are being an elite snob because you don't acknowledge their 2,000-year-old werewolf vampire hybrid. Oh my God! Oh yeah.
The only thing you forgot in their Gangsy is they are also part dragon.
Oh yeah. Don't forget the part dragon,
Part
and
dragon.
that they're a virgin.
Or if
and-
it's
and
ESO,
they are-
they're the dragonborn were
Or
vampires.
I cannot be wounded because I'm immortal. Therefore, my virginity grows.
Oh yeah. What was that?
That's
Was that True
disturbing.
Blood that did that? True Blood did that.
I think it was True Blood. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
the one
it's-
it regrew your body the way it was when you were turned, so you're stuck like that. So yeah, every time, yeah, that
right.
that
So
grew
then
back.
they played the whole
But-
"I was a virgin."
But
Therefore,
that was. But the thing is, that was the lore in that world. That
That's
lore
true.
doesn't transfer over into this video game because the lore is different here. And
Yeah,
as
and
far
then
as
you
I
have
know,
to get into the whole, in reality, we know now as older humans that virginity is a construct. But barring that,
you're a construct.
oh,
I was about to say she is a construct, but I was beat me to it, dude.
Shout out to Circe, who's not around tonight, but that's something she would say. That's for you, Circe, when you listen later.
Oh goodness.
Oh God, yeah, you see all kinds of stuff at the Withered Tree, and I really when I play Ciel, it's easier because Ciel gives no fucks.
Yeah, she doesn't give a shit.
She just kind of assumes,
just brushes it off like you're an idiot.
You're either an idiot, you're crazy, or you really believe it, and she just doesn't care. So
You're a crazy idiot.
It just comes down to. Is this person someone I have to kill? No. Is this person I have to listen to? No. Are they cute enough to fuck? No. Okay, I really have nothing else to say. Who's buying beer? And there you go. That's Ciel's entire philosophy, kind of in one little hole.
One fell swoop.
Yeah.
It all goes down the checklist, and if it doesn't fit in, that's what makes her. And I really like playing her for characters like that, particularly in public. My other characters are not like that, but I don't play them in public as much because they would say, "Are you fucking stupid?" Because they really would say that.
Right,
You're
yeah.
crazy, aren't you? You do understand you're insane, right? Have you seen a doctor? Because they would not be able to be quiet. Let's say Sully, for example. She couldn't do it. She'd start twitching and she'd just stab them in the face. So my public characters are much more and specifically chosen because I rolled them that way. And then I was like, this is the one, pull out with 2 fingers. This is the character I will play in public because she will not care.
Yeah. That movie, Bright, that came out on Netflix with Will Smith that did the, like a modern day version of the fantasy, like the Tolkien-esque fantasy with orcs and stuff like that. That one is actually they could tell they put, which has been got greenlit for a part 2. It got some terrible reviews. I thought it was really well done. It was, I guess, just as a fantasy guy, I liked it. I don't care what
I thought
anyone
it
thinks.
was good.
It was Will Smith was great. The orc guy totally stole the show though. But the thing was in that, like the elves and stuff, they were long lived. And they were like the Beverly Hills snobs. Like they were, and it wasn't just because, yes, they're elves, but it's also, I think part of that, it looked like because they lived so long, they had the time and the ability to mass that kind of wealth and power. And,
kind of like Altmer in ESO.
Right, exactly. And, and a lot of the Dunmer and the non-Simpson-esque characters that you might find in ESO.
The non-Simpson. I detect a hint of malice there.
But I'm just saying, it looks like you've got some jaundice.
Not everybody can be gold in their glory. Almost have to make
not everybody
major
can be
Prince
gold in
out
their glory.
upset.
That sounds like a bumper sticker tagline. Not everybody can be gold in their glory. Signed, R. Kelly.
Oh gosh.
Different kind of gold.
Yeah, that's the wrong kind of gold.
Oh, well, who knew? But but they actually seem to have put a little bit of thought into that. Like
totally.
if you got Netflix and you haven't watched that show but you like fantasy, do yourself a favor, just watch it. Don't read reviews. Reviews are garbage.
Just go see a movie because you
see
like
it for yourself.
Yeah,
that's the best. Yeah,
and you're already paying for Netflix. What do you got to lose? It's not like you got to sit in a sticky movie theater and kids kicking the back of your seat anymore.
I will say that's what I do every time I go see a movie. I don't listen to what everybody says about it, and I go in with an open mind and I watch it because I want to see it. And then I make my own decision whether I liked it or not. Because there's a lot of shows out there that if I listened to the critics, I would never get to see. And then I would be so
you got to bounce
disappointed.
back and forth. Like, it's funny, going into movies real quick, like The Last Jedi. Critically, it's the best critically done of them. And on like Rotten Tomatoes, it's at like a 90-something. Fan-wise, it's at like a 90. It's like at a 54. It's one of the first Star Wars movie that's complete opposite of everything. I know we're not going to get into it because Straffe and I will. I'm going to have to pull his hair because he does not understand.
He will probably be the rebel. I'll be the Imperial, and none of us will agree on anything.
Yeah, you can be shirtless Kylo Ren in this one.
Old Ben Swallow.
With your with your pants up
I've
to your
been
belly
swallow.
button.
Can you put a shirt on? No, I've been swallow. Get out of here, kid.
Yeah, okay. I did like the porgs. And you know what? Okay, quick side note. The reason the porgs exist wasn't just because they're an adorable moneymaker. Apparently, while they were filming on that island, fuck ton of penguins.
Yep.
They kept ruining the shots, so they're like, okay, we gotta figure out something where we could stop having these little bastards ruining every shot. And thus porgs were born. That's why
That's
porgs
hilarious.
are partially penguin-like. So
Because they just computer generated
they
them
just
into
generated over the anytime there was a random penguin that
going
jumped
through
in the
was a
shot.
porg.
Yeah, porg.
That's hilarious and
Yeah.
smart. It probably
It's
saved
smart.
a lot of money that
Yeah,
way.
and unlike Ewoks and some of the other stuff, they actually weren't annoying in the movie. I thought they were rather charming, especially Chewie.
You can just see the director going, "Are you kidding me?"
Right. God damn it, J.J. Abrams! Why did you have to pick this fucking island to film on? Really? Did you know how you only had to do one scene at the end, and she was just handing off a lightsaber? I've got to film a whole friggin' movie here. You son of a bitch.
That's pretty hilarious.
But so anyway, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, immortality.
General chat.
Okay. So yeah, what like, man, if you really did live forever, like, how much would you really try to get that dream job that you've always wanted, knowing that you've, I mean, you know, would you really stick with your, like, you know, whatever it is you do every day, or would you,
Well, I
you know,
think it
kind of
would
stick with that
depend.
for a time, and then, but you always try to keep improving?
I think it would depend on how long I had already lived. I think that if I had just found out, then yeah, I think I'd go for my dream job. I'd follow my heart and do that. But if I'd been alive for a couple 100 years already or more, I think my dream job wouldn't matter anymore.
You turn into Hugh
So-
Hefner, just sitting in your pajamas all day, surrounded by
I'm sure you'd go through that initially.
surrounded
till you
by
got
your
older.
bitches.
I'm sure you'd. I think initially you'd go through something like that, and then you know.
I think there would be many phases.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
you would.
so,
You
okay.
would get it. You would just stick with. You would probably just stick with a crappy job at one point. Then
Yeah,
you'd
okay, so,
probably
yeah,
go
you-
for dream job. And then
Okay,
It's
so we'll go there. Let's try to see if we can think of. We'll try to go through we'll make it short. Go through 1,000 years. Okay, so you're the Walmart greeter, and you're let's say you're 32 years old, and boom, you're passing out smiling stickers to kids, and suddenly you touch the magic smiley sticker that makes you immortal. What's your next step? You know, you're the Walmart greeter. You just found out, and if you're any Walmart greeters out there, thank you for your service.
I don't think anything would change for a while. I think I would just live my life, but now I would be able to look at my life a little differently, and then slowly.
Yeah, how long do you
dawn
think
on
it would
me.
take to get perspective? Like, you know, I mean, are you? And say you have, like, you know, like you can't be damaged, you can't be hurt. I mean, how quickly do you go into the cutting yourself to, you know, like the typical, like, I have superpowers, and you cut yourself just to make sure, like, it like heals back up
I
real
think
quick, you know?
you do that, and then you have a Groundhog Day probably year, and then it settles in. But I think initially you'd just be numb, and it would take a year or two, and then it would finally hit you. Like maybe you're in a car accident and you're not even hurt, and you
Yeah.
should have.
yeah,
And then you're like, "Wow, this is real."
And then you're like,
And
wow,
now I have to
I'm
be
Bruce
careful.
Willis now.
And I have to be careful because
Bruce Willis.
now people are going to pay attention if I get in a car accident and I don't get hurt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're going to be like, "Uh-oh." You know, you
Imagine the
slip out of
government.
Yeah.
Imagine the
Right.
government getting hold of you. Like,
Yeah, that's one of the fear. When I played Xanis, that was one of the reasons he didn't tell people, was he didn't want to have to explain it. And his fear was of, you know, people taking, you know, given he as strong as he was, it was probably a silly fear because he was me. No, but you know, it was a fear I gave him that he wasn't comfortable talking about it around a lot of, you know, normal people, you know. Because of exactly that somebody might try to, you know, like take the blood or synthesize or recreate whatever it was, and his existence was pretty miserable the way it was. And then look who he married. I mean, it was just the poor guy was begging for death by the end.
And a man who wanted to die got intertangled with all that and was
Right.
made He's miserable as well for the rest of his
Mhm.
existence.
Yeah, and I think somebody was
Surprise.
lined up to take his spot.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And he's like, you know what? I'm taking it just out of spite for you, Ren gods. If that even is your real
The irony
name.
being, when he finally did get the chance, she married a dirty human werewolf.
I
Yep.
know, right? The
And
fleas
Ren looked at that and was
all.
like, wow, you finally delivered the fatal blow.
Well, I mean,
Now,
Almost.
in her defense, he left. He vanished
He
for
did.
a long
Mhm.
period of time, and she didn't think he was coming back. And so
well, and
she
after
started
Xanis,
dating
does anybody
Ryder.
really ever measure up? I mean,
Yeah,
you may
uh-huh.
as well just start scraping the bottom of the barrel, and look what there was. Werewolves.
Oh, that's great.
Gregor, if you ever hear this, buddy, I love you. I'm just teasing it. You were a fantastic werewolf. You really were.
And we have nothing against werewolves.
I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't either. But hey,
I don't know about that. I'm just saying, it's just especially if I have to watch Rise of the Lycan again. God, was that
Oh,
a
gosh.
terrible werewolf movie? Also, one of our first date movies, huh, hon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish that one had been better.
oh, the memories.
Yeah, he asked me to see Marley and Me with him because
Hey,
he
I
didn't
didn't
want
want.
to
I didn't
look like
want to
a
cry in the
creeper.
theater like a weirdo alone.
So I said, okay, I will go see Marley and Me with you if you go see Rise of the Lycans with me.
I think I
I-
got the better
I
end of
love-
that deal.
Well, I didn't want to look weird going into the theater by myself.
Yeah, because then you'd have that guy. Yeah, so you like werewolves, huh? You should see this furry suit I got back home.
God, no.
Oh, good
No.
lord.
Winky face. Yeah. I got a cub down in Florida. No, you don't. You've got a kid. It's not a cub. It's a kid. Quit making it awkward. So anyway, so furry immortals, what we were talking about. Why can't we kill them? No, I'm kidding. But okay, so you start off Walmart greeter. You go through the phase. When do you start maybe trying to do you start trying to improve your life? I guess would be your next step. You know, for this instance, he's living with mom. And it is a he because he's pathetic. He's
I would
he's
say
a gamer.
if his
He's
mom,
a role player. He's definitely bottom.
Walmart greeter.
Just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think nothing would change until something bad happened, like his mom died, or he was in a bad car accident or something, and he realized that he was just going to walk away. Maybe he disappears after that accident because he realizes if they're going to be looking for somebody in a hospital, he's not in the hospital.
Right.
But
And-
how can you
That's fine.
disappear if you still have family? I don't
Yeah,
know
'cause
if
you
I
still
could
have
walk
other
away.
relatives.
Because you know what happened. We've
Yeah.
all watched the movies. We know what happens when the government decides that your life doesn't matter. So to protect your family, what do? Because
Well, and now
they'll
that we
get swept
just,
up in this mess.
just made the FISA court stronger, they can listen to everything. So you're
yeah. So
That's only gotten worse. That's only gotten
Yeah.
better. Thanks Bush,
So-
then Obama, now Trump. You guys are just
Yeah.
making it better and better. You guys
Yeah.
all suck.
yes, they do. So
Um,
I mean, you look at that, and if the reality sunk in, how far would you go to protect your family?
yeah.
Knowing
Yeah.
that they would get swept up in this mess and they would be tested, and not just you. I mean, your family
Yeah.
would all
and all
have
just
to.
because you got
tested.
one magic Walmart sticker in the role that the that the Waltons put out randomly to their employees every now and again.
Yeah.
Because let's be
yeah.
honest, the rich Waltons, they're behind this poor kid being immortal now.
Oh,
So
are they?
that's-
Evil
yeah,
Walton
they're
Corporation.
the masterminds behind this, because clearly being rich and powerful as they are, they have the technology, and they randomly as fun just pass it on to someone and see what happens to them, because they too are eternal now, as is Walmart. All hail Walmart
Yikes.
and the guys that own
Finally.
Amazon. They all rule us. I mean, let's be honest, we're all screwed. So, I would hope that, like, if it happened to me, I would like to think that I would try to, like, improve my education more than I mean, I never stopped learning. I'm always reading stuff, always watching things. Fail videos may not count as an education, but I have learned not to
What
jump
not to
off
do.
of a roof onto a table if I don't know for sure that it's going to give way, because I may stab myself in two like a jackass. Also, frat boys are dumb.
Very.
And just because it wears a bikini doesn't mean it's going to land on its feet.
So let me ask you this: you would try to improve your education or your life,
right? So that
period.
I could
So,
improve.
do you think if you were immortal, could you learn everything in the world there is to be learned?
You
Well,
couldn't do it. Not these
sure.
days. Well, no, that's the problem now. God, I actually, funny enough, I heard the statistic of how much knowledge is uploaded to the internet every single day, and I'm not even talking about the porn. That's a totally different topic. It's like almost on a daily basis, the amount of knowledge and information uploaded to the internet eclipses that of the last like 2,000 years of total knowledge. It's exponential in every 5 years, every 10 years. It's impossible to keep up with. And I'm, yes, some of it's, and I'm not talking the bullshit stuff. I'm talking actual scientific things, news articles, things of actual substance, scientific journals and stuff like that. It's just exponential every year. It's so much more than the year before. And part of that is it's a self-fulfilling thing. So because the information is out there, it allows somebody else doing another project to be like, oh, well, this information here corroborates this information here. It goes against this over here. Now this is how it is.
Well, I would definitely try.
Yeah, you could.
what.
I mean,
Yeah.
you'd never stop learning. But I'm just saying, as a practical, you can never learn everything. It's just not possible. Because there's always so much new stuff. I mean, shoot, how much new technology do we get every week at this point that you just can't keep? The Samsung 142-inch the wall thing, for example, good stuff. And what will be after that? But you would. I mean, I would try to. I don't like college. I don't like learning in that atmosphere. So I would like to think that if I knew I had all the time, that I would try to learn a little bit more.
Well, I think
in a professional
one of the reasons
kind of
you'd
manner.
end up in college would be you can be there forever and blend in.
And some people are.
And some people do. I mean, so it is something that
Mm-hmm.
you can do forever and live forever, and you could become your own identity and become a professor or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to blend into that world and just learn constantly across. I mean, there are so many universities across the that you could just go one to the other every 10 years and never run out of a place to go. Plus, in other countries, other than the United States, don't cost hardly anything. So
it was like in that documentary, Van Wilder, where he aimlessly went from one year of college to the next, up until all of his 7th year, when his dad finally cut him off. So you have to, you do have to make sure that you pay for that. But then, of course, you run charity events, and unfortunately, your Indian assistant burns it when he's trying to make it with the hot chick. These things happen in these documentaries all the time, and it is unfortunate. But I do understand what you're saying, that you really could almost just stay at college forever, But again, the way things are also going, a college degree is basically something you just wipe your ass with in a lot of places at this point too.
Well, it depends on what you learn.
Depending
and
on
how
what you're doing, right? Liberal arts degree, you may as well just go. You're going to make a great branch manager one day.
Underwater basket weaving, you master
Underwater basket weaving is always a good one. That one actually, I think, if you go off the Al Gore model with the flooding, will be useful one day. So don't knock underwater basket weaving.
That could be true, especially if you grow gills and I don't.
But of course, Jazz, we're in you're in Texas, so we're all safe. It's just those horrible coastal people that have to worry about that.
Yeah, we don't really.
We just do what Lex Luthor did and buy real estate in Nevada.
I would definitely learn things like welding, things that
trade skill stuff. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Things that I could, maybe do artwork with, because I love those big welded statues or pieces of art. I think it'd be neat to learn something like that. It's a treat.
Well, and for you, hun, I'm going to brag on you a little bit. She already has a talent that I would say the majority of people out there do not, because it's a dying art form, and that's the ability to sew and seamstress. And she undercuts it. But if anybody out there, if the costume she's made for me, like the Batman Heath Ledger Joker thing. She, other than the shirt, which the only reason I bought that was because we couldn't find the pattern fabric for it, but head to toe, she made that entire thing for me. The vest, the long coat, the pants, the whole thing from scratch without any patterns or anything like that. All she needed was like a shirt to make sure she, got my size right. And she can make wedding dresses. She's got a talent in that most people don't. It's a lost art this day and age. Most people really don't have a clue on how to be a seamstress or, sew a button. I don't. I can't sew a button. I can use a sewing. I can use a sewing machine barely, but I can make a straight line. But I can't do what you did. You're putting like multiple layers of shit between other shit, and you're using things like fawns and cake molds, or I don't even know what you call it anymore. But that's something that, especially, if people were immortal, that's probably something useful to learn, is actual like trade skills, like, maybe how to use a welder, how to do electrical work and plumbing work and things like that. Because,
how to build a car.
Yeah, how to maintain cars and things like that. Stuff like that probably would be a pretty good practical skill if you had all that time.
I would almost say, I would go as far as to say, I'd become like a mad scientist. I'd just lock myself away and just make shit, because I think it would be fun just to come up with stuff.
So you'd become Sotha Sil from Elder Scrolls,
she'd make her own Clockwork City.
Yeah.
Truly.
Let's do this. I mean, because you'd have to have something to occupy your time.
Yeah, and the cosplay people that make cosplay costumes, especially the good ones, those people can make money hand over fist. Some of those ones that you can order online that come out of Asia, they got some pretty high quality, and they charge for it. Or like Anvo, I think that's how they say it. The guys that they do a lot of Stormtrooper and Star Trek armors and costumes of very high quality. But man, you pay out your butt for that stuff. Yeah. Holy shit, is that stuff expensive? And people buy it though. But people, they got disposable income and they want to look. That's some good money. So you can become a cosplay nerd and never show your face.
True.
There you go.
At what point does your immortality, like, you start moving past, like, I could sew, but I know how to do it. There's no meaning in it anymore.
Right. I don't gather.
Like, that's the danger, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Things that you like.
I can weld, I can build cars. I just don't care. It would be bad.
Like, how many of I've been playing video games since I was a little kid. For as long as I've been alive, and I do find, like, I still really like it, and I love to play them, and I want to play as many as I can. But there's a lot of times I'm just like, it's just it's tiring. Like, even a single player game that I want to like the story on. It's like,
it's like going into Fallout 4.
I'll get to it later.
I really like building a settlement. I should totally go do a resource run. Then you get 5 seconds into it, you're like, dude, I'm completely bored. What am I doing? I'm collecting junk for a town that I'm working on.
Right.
Not going to complete the game at all.
Yeah, which I never did on that one. I
mean, it was fun.
Partway through. Yeah. It was I liked the game. And same with Skyrim. I enjoyed it. I played a whole lot of it, did a lot of side quests. I don't think I ever finished the main campaign.
I have yet to finish Fallout 4 as well, because I keep doing other stuff.
Right. Yeah. And and then slowly you just like, oh, look, shiny. How often would that happen? Especially, and the older we get, too, the way time moves. Could you imagine? I mean, I know I'm how old am I? Am I 38? 39? Sure, why not? I'm 38 or 39. I don't know. You do the math.
I'm 38 again.
She's 38 again.
If we ever got our stuff together and we started putting colonies on the moon and Mars, now that might be cool for a few decades, and then you'd get bored of that too.
Yeah. You'd be over there with Elon Musk and being like, you know what? This some bitch is okay. But that's another thing. I mean, just everybody notices this, and my theory is the reason time seems to go by the faster and faster every year the older you get is just because you have more to look back on, or maybe not even so much that there's more going on in your life. Like what I do, I'm doing a podcast right now. I'm talking with my friends, and about role play and stuff like that. Clearly, I've got some free time on my hands, but the perspective of where I'm at now compared to when I was 5 or 10, I've got so many more years and decades to look back on. It just seems to go by so much faster. It's not necessarily that I'm busier. I mean, I've got the same job I have now that I had 12 years ago, but the time it takes to get from one part of my business year to the other and start over again, it goes way faster than it did when I started my job at the post office. Way faster.
I didn't watch it, and I totally agree. Like, in my 20s, I didn't care until I was 29, and I was like, where did my 20s go? And then you notice things start speeding up. So there is validity to that.
And see, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that because
it's just my theory.
I mean, I've lived for 50 years. I've lived for 50 years, and I look back on when I was a kid, and that was forever ago.
Right.
And so much has changed that I don't think I think that's part of what drives you crazy is that you think it's going to go by quickly, but and it does in a sense, but not really.
Right. I mean, technically, it always goes by the exact same speed.
Right.
Well, I mean, as long as our planet
your
stays the same
perception
speed,
of it changes as you get older. Like last year took forever. Absolutely forever. In 2016 was horrible, but it went very quickly. So I'm not really sure why last year took so freaking long, but that was a long year for me. It felt like it was never going to end. I really wanted to set it on fire. I was so tired of it. So I'm sure that's probably true. Live a long time as well.
Yeah. I mean, it just, but that was, those examples are just 2 years. But overall, would you say, like, even compared to last year, would you say it still seemed like it went by faster than previous years before, like maybe not 2016, but like other years, like it's still, is it just the perception, or did that one just really, really drag on like it was never going to end?
I look back at when I was in my 20s and it feels like it happened yesterday. I still feel 20. I don't feel 50.
Right, I get that. I feel the same way too.
Yeah,
I forget.
I don't feel.
I forget when I talk to people, grown ass man
until
faces
I look in the mirror.
Yeah,
and I'm like, whoa. Okay, yeah, I'm not a kid anymore. But if I don't look in the mirror for several days, sometimes I don't, as I don't even brush my hair in front of the mirror, I forget that I'm 50. Because, I don't look 50 anyway. But even if I did, I don't feel older. So in that sense, I think it was a misperception on my part that when I got older, I'd feel older. And if I lived forever, I think I'd have that same where you probably forget you've been around for 2,000 years, and you forget that nobody else was in Rome when it fell, and no one else
lived through the Black Plague,
right. No one else lived through the Black Plague. No one else saw.
Let's go for all the positive parts in history. The
Black
Plague.
Nobody else did that. So you're looking back on that and going, well, shit, I can't talk about that. That would be harder for me than anything else because I couldn't share my life with anybody, and I'd have to constantly
you'd have to always do it in the vein of,
how old am I pretending to be right now?
Well, that and, like, if you want to talk history, like, instead of, like, I read in a book once, even though maybe you lived it,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You get to the point where people are saying, what's a book? And you're like, oh.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we used to have to chop down these things called trees.
Which nobody has anymore. And
which, of course, were burned off in the first great robot versus clone war. That was when Skynet rose up and, it tried to take out humanity. And that's when we discovered spice, and the spice must flow.
You're mixing up your
my documentaries. I know, I get these. I watch so many of these documentaries. I do get them mixed up from time to time. But
what if the horrible happened and literally people start thinking you're stark raving mad, and maybe you do go a little mad and you end up in a mental ward, but you're immortal.
Yeah, there's a terrible
eventually it's going to fall apart and you'll waltz out. So, you just bide your time.
Yeah, you just have to hope they don't realize, crazy Nick over there in C-49, he's been here for 50 years, and he
still
looks
looks like
really
he's-
good for a 50-year-old. Anybody else notice that? Or is it
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
or is it the fact that if he's well, actually, it's pretty much anywhere in the world that the mental health facilities of pretty much anywhere in the world suck so bad, the turnover rate there will be so great that nobody will notice.
Right,
Yeah,
and I would think that that's probably more likely the case. That'd probably be the best place to hide, especially if you needed to hide for a little while.
Not to mention
Just-
free pills.
Yeah, free pills and free food, and there you go.
Yeah.
Just disappear for 50 years until things chill down, and then you can go back out and do your thing. And I think that would be a really fun movie, actually.
Yeah.
Where have you been all these years? On a mental hospital. They
Yeah.
closed it recently because half of it burned down, and so I had to leave.
And every now and then
So-
you rub soup in your hair just to prove the point,
Yeah.
That would be if you could escape notice, but if you're always looking the same,
True.
Well,
you would
but
not
you
escape
know,
notice for long.
Facial
yes,
technology.
you could actually make yourself look older by dyeing your hair, by shaving your head, for example. There's lots of ways to make people
Sacrilege in
think
Strafe's
older.
world.
don't
Don't
really.
ever touch those golden locks.
Yeah, I will not deny that fact at all.
That's his short of death, his next biggest fear. Male pattern baldness.
Oh Lord.
I think if it hasn't hit him by now, it's probably
You're
not
probably
going to.
good. Yeah, he's probably all right. Yeah. Okay. So here's another thing. You're immortal, and the rainforest. They finally cut into that special tree. At the same time, the scientists in Antarctica pull out that long dead, 100,000-year-old virus, and the two of them get together and wipe out all of humanity, except for you.
Yeah,
that would
there's
suck.
also another.
Well, then you know that there's probably other people like you somewhere, so you just have to start traveling until you found.
Well,
someone.
yeah, I mean, the Waltons, clearly they're going to be there because they're still going to be around because they pass out the magic stickers that grant immortality randomly to the Walmart greeters.
Right.
But yeah, if it was just some fluke that you were the only one, how awful would that be to be stuck on a planet alone?
It would be a torment
forever.
you could never get off.
Yeah.
Well, you'd make really good friends with the animals, and
You'd be Ace Ventura. Oh.
Yeah.
If you're truly immortal,
eventually someone would
People of the
land, and you'd be
forest,
like,
come
"Oh,
to
look, a person!"
me.
and you dance toward them, singing. And
Yeah.
you start craving mad at that point.
You're like, I've always wanted to visit Europe. I'm going to walk across the Atlantic Ocean and see what that's like,
Yeah, seriously, you can't drown. Why not?
14 years later, you pop up on the other side. You know what? That was a terrible trip. Not a single rest stop the entire way. Sushi was really good, though.
Mm.
Fresh sushi
You're so
right out of the
hilarious.
ocean.
I mean, while the technology was still around, while the power plants aren't falling into disrepair and decay, you could technically launch yourself into space and experience that. If you're immortal and you're not going to die anyway.
Yeah, but if you got sucked into the vacuum of space, how
But then,
horrible
you're
would
floating
that be?
forever, so you're in the
Yeah.
same problem, except now you're just floating around.
Yeah, and the lack of oxygen and the horrible never dying thing.
Yeah.
That would be awful. Yeah.
Yep.
What-
But eventually, everything's going to decay. You're going to live literally living like a mountain hermit
Yeah.
because you have nothing.
Yeah, because there was a History Channel show that did something like that. That was
Yeah, life without people. It was
Life
pretty
Without People. That was it. Yeah, and they said like the Hoover Dam would go on for, I think they said it was like almost a decade. That the only thing it's self-sufficient. The only thing that would eventually shut it down is the growth of the plant life and the animal life, the little crustacean-y things, the barnacle kind of things that are over there in that lake.
So your whole existence would turn into, I have to maintain this power plant so I can watch my Shrek videos for the millionth time.
So you could
have
end up
nothing else
being
going
Will
on.
Smith and
Yeah, and
Omega
that
Man
I
or
Am
whatever.
Legend.
I Am Legend, yeah. Omega Man was the original version with Charlton Heston. That's what I was thinking of.
And that one I think was far superior.
Probably.
Just
Well, yeah,
after
because
I
they
see
didn't
both
have
of them.
horribly CGI bullshit vampire people.
Yeah.
Honestly, practical effects, Hollywood. Practical effects. It's okay. Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing.
Seriously.
So yeah, that would be
That would be a terrible existence. I mean, you
Yeah.
could find out every secret, anything, but then what would be the point? You'd still be there.
right.
No
Go
one
to
tell
Washington
you.
D.C. and like travel, try to find the bunkers and stuff like that. I guess, but to what end?
Yeah.
You know, it's just and even if there was a couple other people around, I mean, geez, the chances, you know, it's regardless of what people think, it's a big damn planet, you know. I forget what they say, like if you put shoulder to shoulder, the entire human population could fit on, you know, one of the Hawaiian Islands, you know. It wouldn't be probably smell too good, and I doubt it would probably be very comfortable. But, you know, there's a lot of land out there, and man, that would be rough finding anybody. It's not a good existence. So, taking all this stuff, hopefully it was at least a fun conversation. I know I thought it would be kind of neat to just plan this out. But when it comes to role play, kind of things you should think about, especially given into depending on, of course, it depends on your game. You know, different games have different lore and things like that, and not every game, you know, can sustain it. You know, regardless of what you want, you know, it's not always practical. I know, like ESO, we do have the vampires. I read the guy I met last night, who actually is one that we've talked about him on the show before, who his house burned down, and he needed. We threw his name out there because his guildies were trying to do some good and give him a little extra cash on hand. I want to say Roger, but I know it's not Roger because it's close to that. Majer. Yeah, Regnir Majer. That was it. You know, he's like, I guess he's a 3,000. He says he was 3,000 years old, and he's got like Daedric tattoos on his face that help keep him that way. And why he would tell my character, who he just met, that if those ever got, you know, damaged, that he would basically turn into dust. I'm like, that. Okay, I can deal with a 3,000-year-old thing. Probably shouldn't have told me that, especially since she's an ordinator, and if you ever heresy in front of her, where do you think she's going to start shooting for?
Yeah, seriously.
Thanks, Samson. I should cut your hair now at midnight because
Yeah,
you've made me angry.
Regnar, thank you. Yeah, it was Regnar Majer. In character, and he was actually pretty fun. He was saying how he because he's so old, he'll just fall asleep randomly. Like people will be talking to him, he'll be like, you know. Since he wears a mask, like he was saying how he'll have students being talking to him and telling their theories and what they're doing, and then they'll realize he's been sleeping the whole time. Which, you know, it's actually pretty funny.
You would think that would happen.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how many people would you meet in an eternal lifetime?
Yeah, how boring would people start to be? How I mean, I'm only 38, and I'm already bored with anybody new that I meet for the most part. I mean, I like meeting people online here through the show. But like everybody I meet in real life, I've met you once before. I don't mean, it may not be you, but someone pretty close to you. You know, I already kind of got your story. You know, and even online, you know, I meet people, and it's like, yeah, how many in like role play characters you meet them, and you're like, oh, you know, like you've heard it before. You know, and that's just you know, if you're immortal, how long is it before you're just like, yeah, I've already met someone like you before, and honestly, they were better first. They did it first.
Well, 40 of you, and you won't be the last, nor do I care. I mean, it would be maybe a cavalier attitude.
It is hard, though, in RP to make a story that somebody hasn't heard.
Right.
I mean, it really is. I mean, you think about it.
Like they say, there's no original stories to be told anymore. They're just retellings of old stories that have already happened over the thousands of years now. But yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
I do that, I know.
You can't help it. It's like
Anyway, so I was talking.
Like I said,
what?
You can't help it.
Sorry,
never mind.
There's
Nothing.
over there.
I didn't say nothing.
Damn. You know, one thing about being married to her, she is such a talker. You know, just day and night, all the time, just talk, and never once a sandwich.
No,
never a sandwich.
No.
But no, and you are right. There's only so, you know, even my characters. Trust me, I'm not exempt from this. You know, many of my characters share a lot of the same aspects with previous characters I've had. Maybe, you know, details change, and those share aspects with other, you know, assassiny or ward-like characters and things like that. There's only so many different variations of personalities. You know, even even when you read books and stuff like the Stephen King, he's always got the same kind of similar characters in every story, one way or the other. There's the innocent one, there's the asshole. For some reason, he usually likes to put in somebody with a mental disability. Especially back in the old days, he had a lot of those, like The Stand and things like that. He really liked to use them. They were usually the ones that always had the power, which was also kind of a cool thing. But there's only so many different tropes and stereotypes out there that people can really draw from. It's really hard to come up with anything completely original. You just have to kind of go off of what and that's the other thing. Everybody role plays what they know, which is why role-playing Immortality can be really, really difficult if you don't think it through, because let's face it, you're not immortal. You're probably only 20 or 30 years old.
Yeah. And that's also back to something else that I want people to think about, is that if you're playing an immortal character, if you're playing someone that's 2,000 years old, one of the things that most of them don't do, and it drives me crazy, is they don't know the lore of the game.
Right.
So they're a 2,000-year-old person who's an idiot, apparently.
Right. And they refuse to abide by the lore, and they care less about your character, whatever. Or even if they just don't know, they've just come to the game, they want to play this character, and they do it, but they don't know the background, they don't know the lore, they don't know the story of the game.
And then which you can get away with, but you have to. You can't fake it. Right, you can't fake it. You could be mysterious, and when they bring that up and I don't like to talk about it. There you go. Fair, it's done.
But with Bacarina, when her story took that twist, and I realized, well, how can I do this without explaining too much? Because a lot of her backstory was unknown to most. Because she didn't remember who she was. She only knew little bits and pieces because she lived and died and lived and died and lived and died and lived and died and lived and died. And so she only would remember small bits and pieces from various lives. When she finally figured out that she had actually lived years, I had to take some time. I had her leave to go get her head together. And she was gone from the game for about a week. And I went, it was like 2 weeks. And I went and I got EQ 1. And I went to Neriak, and I played all the quests in Neriak. And because I wanted to understand, if she was born in that era, that was when she would remember the most. I wanted to understand that game because that's the best way to learn. So that's what I did. That way, when people would come and start talking about the Neriak, because I played in Neriak, I had it in my head what it looked like.
Right.
I played the game in Neriak, so you go up the hill and there's this big gate and, all of this stuff. And a lot of the lore that I learned too suddenly made sense because people had talked about the gates. Well, in the new Neriak, it didn't make any sense.
Right. It all collapsed. They didn't really exist.
And so when I went back into the game, I was like, oh, that's why it was called that, because it really was honestly a gate.
Yeah, it wasn't symbolic. It was just a big fucking gate.
Yeah, so I figured out a lot of stuff when I played the game. And that made, when I was talking to people, and I said she's ex-Olden, when she was Vivi, she lived in Neriak and what she did. And people who played that game loved that I knew, you turned the corner and then there was the fancy.
Yeah.
And it was right in the middle of everything, and, there was this
It's little details that help sell it.
And that sold it, because it was important. And so anytime somebody plays an older character, they need to remember that. One of the things that she did is she was, one of my characters is the mother of a character that lived in a different game. So I was able to remember things from that game and pull it into the new game because they lived that. And that's important when you're playing an old character. Not, I'm a 2,000-year-old vampire, but in the game, vampires were only created 1,500 years ago. That might present a problem.
Right. Yeah. That's where knowing lore really comes in handy, especially if you want to play a long-lived character. Really, you're doing yourself more than the people around you a disservice by not knowing what the hell you're talking about.
Because you'd better, if you want to play an old character, fine. Make sure you know the lore.
You are,
like,
and I've
Go
run
ahead.
into those people. Sorry, Jazz, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
And I literally asked them because I knew Elder Scrolls lore pretty well. Not an expert, but I know it pretty well because I'm a big nerd. And I asked this person, who's apparently a super old vampire, in character, "Oh, so you were live in the Neolithic Age?" I get this uncomfortable, yes, this. I'm like, well, there's nothing past this age. That's when we find elves were living in the stars and not having to suffer this mortal coil. And the lack of lore, I literally had to do some OOC brackets to kind of explain what was going on in the game's lore to them to straighten their story out to help them, because I wasn't trying to punish them because they didn't know, but I was like, hey, dude, you might want to do this because you don't want to sound like a derp.
You don't want to sound like a derp.
Because you sound like a derp.
You,
but
you
yeah.
sound, you're derp. You have vocal derp face right now. It's
So, I mean, I'd rather help some folks because I'd rather see them, encourage
Like,
role-playing and develop instead of just, oh, well, I'm just not going to play with you guys 'cause I didn't get my way. It's like, come on, man.
I'm an elitist. You don't understand me. I only type in the Dark Elf language when I'm speaking.
Oh my god, that person was...
The Dark Elf language.
I know who you're talking about.
And those players give all of them a bad name, even
Right.
if they don't intend to be bad. It's like, come on, man, get it together.
Yeah, well, and they look like assholes in front of everybody else.
Yeah, they do.
And, yeah, I like what Eric said about people. If you want to be recognized as a role player, you can't stand up. You can't just stand there propping up a wall. Yeah, you got to interact with people, and you can't get pissed off when you're just sitting there like brooding, in the corner, and everyone's like, "Well, nobody role played with me." Well, yeah, you went in, you emoted once that you were leaning on a wall, and then you sat there for 15 minutes, and then you left. What was there to interact
Or they
with?
sit there and they sigh. They write.
Yeah.
Don't
They
talk.
sigh dejectedly.
Yeah,
But even then-
and if you come over and talk to them, they're like,
Nothing.
realizes they're being interrupted and looks up. Yes, can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
And you try to talk to them, and they're like, I'm busy writing. And they go back to writing, and you're like, well, I tried.
Well,
See, I took the whole wall RP back in the day when we were in EQ2 together a whole different way. I'm like, well, if I am this brooding older
Yes.
dark elf from Neriak, I'm not going to say much. I'm going to pretend to be a mercenary, and that's what I did. And that's when I ran into Nilok. He's like, you look about the most shadiest dude in here. Do you want a job?
he's
And
like,
of course, his
"Did
job
we
was
just
to
become
infiltrate.
best friends?"
Yeah, his job was to infiltrate Freeport. He's like, yes, I would totally take a job. And they gave him an inn.
But that was
Like his
Nilok.
mission. Well,
Oh,
yeah.
I loved
That
him.
was that little fucker. He was such a
He
good
was-
guy.
He was.
But if you
And-
stand on the wall and then you refuse, you make these sad emotes like no one pays attention to me, and then you go pay attention to you or to them,
and then
they
you
totally
brush
ignore
them
you.
off. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't do that.
And, like-
you gotta be able. That's the thing with that. You gotta be able to. You have to have your character have some open
Mhm.
unless you're perfectly good with being, as he said, the wall propper, and if that's really your deep dark roleplay, you just can't get offended by it when people come up to you and you blow them off, that they walk off.
Right.
What else would you think would happen? That's
Yeah.
and that's just how
Well,
how
like,
that works.
when I
I mean,
started-
I don't try to talk to somebody that's like blowing me off. I'm like, okay, well, I don't really know you, so fuck you too.
Yeah.
And for all of you new players, or new RPers, I should say, when you're at like the thing that was last night, the Windhelm
Yeah,
thing,
the festival.
I can't remember. Yeah, the festival. There was so many people there, and I've
Oh,
noticed
man.
in ESO, people capitalize the name they're trying to talk to, which
That is
really helps because it draws. You might be trying to read through this massive amount of chat, and it's just scrolling like 90 to nothing, and you see your name pop up or your character's name pop up in caps. Then you're like, oh, that person actually said something to me. That helps. That
It does
really
help.
helps. And if you're trying to get somebody's attention, that helps. Or send them a tell. Let them know that you're trying to make conversation with them. Don't get discouraged. Just
Yeah, give them a couple minutes, and if they don't
Yeah.
respond, send them a tell real quick and be like, hey, I was trying to talk to you. Did you?
I mean,
did
we
you
had
catch it?"
several people in our guild that were like, we can't do
Yeah,
this.
and
It's just too much.
Well, she mentioned before, Sabea, and she's a longtime role player. She couldn't keep up with certain parts of it, and it
Mhm.
was, she was getting tired too, which, of course, when you're tired, it just makes it that much. It's like stubbing your toe when you're sick. It's just exponentially more painful, way more than the bounds of human physical ability should be allowed to make that toe feel. That capitalization thing, that helps. I've started taking to doing that a lot, especially during big stuff like that. It helps a lot.
Well, I first noticed it at the tea house. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Keep going.
Quit apologizing to each other.
I first noticed it.
Jeez.
People use it at the Talvani Tea House.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed it there, and I was like, "Well, that's a really good idea." And it works. So, go ahead, Jess. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. It's fine. For people who do like to watch and get used to something before they RP, this is a perfectly valid thing to do. And I started an EQ. I didn't know any of these people. I had never RP'd an MMO before. EQ2 was my first game. And I took Vakarina, who was a scout and a spy, and I had her sit in a corner and write in her journal and took notes of everything everyone said, and basically what their names were, if they mentioned their names, that is, what their names were, who they knew, wrote down names of people they mentioned in conversation. Then I wrote down what they said, and I just kind of took notes while I was watching this. And I did this for weeks. Nobody really talked to me. Nobody really included me until Shinto took notice of the fact that Vakarina was always sitting there and came and sat down next to her and says, "So, who are you spying on? Am I in there? Did you write down my name?" And they started talking and arguing about religion. And that is my first roleplay, was with Shinto. He was my first, who is now Quintus, was my first roleplay connection. And he, in turn, connected me with dozens of other role players, and his other character paid me for information as Vakarina for things that she would overhear. And I eventually was able to do this. And when I started ESO, I did the same thing on Cial. I just took her there. She leaned on a wall, and I waved or nodded to people that I did know, and anyone else I just watched. And eventually I was included because I got used to seeing me leaning on that one.
Yeah.
So if you're shy, that's what you should do, because that helps you get recognized and eventually.
Just be patient.
The whole Nilla thing
patient.
Was my first RP connection to Freeport side, because all the Kinos RP died. And then once I was in there, no one noticed me because I was literally he was just a damaged weapon. He just lived to kill his boss's minions. But he was watching people, and he slowly started engineering the downfall of his officers in his guild, so therefore he could eventually take out Nilok. And even Nilok, they were too stupid to realize I was pitting everybody against each other until Vaka figured out her son's house was in turmoil. You found out. Then once you took notice, it opened up this whole bigger RP world for me, and I was like, "This is madness." I expected to die, and it just kept going. It's amazing how it happens.
Because he came to one of Vaka's shindigs, and they were all together.
He came to the opening of the Maiden's Fancy.
That was it.
Before the Maiden's Fancy became a guild of whatever it became.
Right. And came to that, and that's when Vaka met Rangots, and he kissed her hand and was very noble and old-fashioned and immediately had her attention. And she's looking at her, at the time, stepson, and was just like, "Where did you find this one? He actually has class." And he was like, "He's just this guy. He's not important." And then she realized, the hell he isn't. He's running circles around you. And she started paying attention.
Yeah, it was a pretty entertaining moment. And I kind of realized maybe I added myself by doing the old world respect, but that was my character. He had to do it. That was a matron from Old Neriac. I have to do that. I cannot not do this.
Yeah, you got to stick with what you know.
And it was fun. And it does open, and I was shy at first, but it opened up a whole new world by just slowly one step leading to another.
And that's the fun part of
it is.
RPing. Just like games, the war games we talked about. Going into this, thinking one thing and something totally different happening. And it's fun because it's something you don't know. I mean, when you got that many people or you're meeting different people, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how your character's going to react to them. You may hate them. You may love them. You may, not want anything else to do with them. But that's the fun part of RPing. Your characters get to interact and just because you don't have a set story. Your character may, but everybody else's character doesn't. So, at least not in your story.
Right.
Right.
How they interact with you has not been set yet.
Yeah. And that's the fun part, because you get to meet, you get to learn all this stuff. I mean, I enjoy that part of the RP. Just getting to meet people and getting to know people.
Yeah. And of course that's why we pretty much all do it, just to do that. But so is there anything that's hopefully we'll start winding things down now here because we're hitting up on the butt end of time.
Oh yeah.
But so with the immortality, you really it comes down to just think it through a little bit. Know the lore, know if it's possible, and come up with it. And if it is, you got to have a good reason why, because obviously not everybody is going to be that way. So you need to have something basically convincing that's not so ridiculous or so out there that it's just not believable. I mean,
you don't want to be the guy who everybody thinks is a god modder because it has been his way.
Yeah, and you still have to, even as an immortal, you still have to have weaknesses. Whether
totally
it's in ability and combat. Nobody is ever is perfect. Even in a lot of lore with the gods are far from perfect. Even in our real world, the Greeks and Thor and all that stuff, they were all flawed individuals as well. Even though if they were immortal gods, they still were fucked up, in doing all sorts of really weird stuff. So you just got to know and think things through a little bit. Know what you're talking about. Come up with something plausible, and ask people around you. Say like, hey, more knowledgeable people especially. It's a good rule of thumb for almost any role play is especially if you're new to it, or even if you're not, you just get someone else's opinion that you trust. Never hurts to get a second opinion. Doesn't hurt when you're getting medical profession. Doesn't hurt in role play. Probably the first one's maybe a little bit more important. And you really should have that lump looked at. I'm just saying.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But anybody else got any final thoughts before we crank this puppy?
I got one more final thought. The whole era of this is trying to embrace an immortal mind from a mortal mind.
Right.
Like, I don't think any of us can possibly, and that's why the Greek gods failed. They're basing these off mortal minds instead of immortal minds.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you run astray. And unless you do your homework, it's always going to be a challenge.
Yeah, you could make it convincing, but even that we're still kind of guessing.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
None of us are. I don't know, unless any of you guys aren't being upfront with me. None of us are immortal. And if you are,
well, I'm sorry, sir. The light of the even star has long ago left me. I have cold hands all the time, and that's the first sign.
Yeah. Message me after the show if you know the secret. I'm just saying. Don't worry about these guys. I'll keep the secret. So, but what? Oh no! I'll totally cut you guys in. Wink. Click the right button. So, but no, I think that'll about do it, guys. Have any last minute things by chance?
No, I think that we covered just about everything.
All right, I do too. So, appreciate everybody tuning in live. rpmmoradio.com/Discord if you want to join our Discord server. Of course, we do take calls, so you will be here every week to do that.
Every week.
Yes. And, of course, you can visit us at Facebook, at RPMO Radio, Twitter, keep up to date, and Instagram as well.
Oh, I got one little thing real quick. Do you want to give a shout out for our next show, just to kind of give everybody a heads up?
Yes, that's actually probably a good idea. Our next show should be with someone called the Smiling Sorcerer. We'll be doing a show on disabled gamers and disabled gaming, on what it does for them. He reached out to us from the Human Floyd, and we'll go a little bit more into that. I'll let him tell his story, but it should be a fascinating look at the way these things work, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've always wanted to do a show like that, but not being disabled myself, I didn't really know how to do it. But since he reached out to us, it should be really, really interesting and a fascinating look into a world of gaming that a lot of us may not have a perspective on. And he is a super cool guy, and I'm really looking forward to it. So that will be our next episode. Again, Smiling Sorcerer. Smiley. So that will about cover us here at RP MMO Radio. That is our 26th episode, wrapping it up. If you have any things to email us, rpmmoradio@gmail.com. If you want to join our Patreon, we would love to have your support. You get a nifty little green name in the Discord, and that is at patreon.com/rpmmoradio. And of course, tune in next time when we'll go over Immortal Halflings and the heroes that hunt them. Only on RP MMO Radio. Good night, everybody. The thoughts and opinions on RP MMO Radio are just that and should not be taken as the gospel truth. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. You can visit him at youtube.com/HuskyByTheGeek to hear all his great rock covers and original album music.